Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack three topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's...
All right, welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 22, we believe.
Or 21.
We've got Michael Duncan.
Hello.
Jacob Moffit
Afternoon.
from Movement to Go. He's another surprise fly-in visitor here.
He's a regular.
You were here like last week or the week before?
Last week.
Last week,
yeah.
Oh, two in a
It
row.
was 2 in a row.
I know.
And Magic Matt Hanham.
Magic Matt, thanks. Thanks for the shout out.
We are drinking today a Margaret River classic, a Pierro Cab Sav,
Oh, okay.
out of my cellar. And this is me indulging
Your
myself
car
a little
boot?
bit, right? And not that you can see it on a podcast, but the label has got LTCF. So I kind of play around with the fact that it was a Lieutenant Conrad Francis. And that's why I put this in my cellar. I've actually got a couple of them, so I don't mind sharing them with you guys. This is a 2014.
Oh, thanks, man.
I've got a few 2012s and a few 2011s.
So what's this? 2000?
This is 2014, so it's probably the newest one. It is a perler. I mean, it's better with a meal, but I'm a red wine drinker anyway, so I don't mind it any time of day. So
I'd love to try it.
I'll hand it over to one of you guys to open since I'm sitting in the comfy chair.
Look at that. King.
Handball.
See if it pairs well with good conversation.
Red wine is a truth serum, all right? If you ever want to get the truth of anyone, ply on with red wine and you'll get the absolute truth.
I'd be happy with red wine every podcast, I reckon.
I would too.
I reckon we
I'm-
maybe do
I'm
like a
fine with
month
that.
or two of just red wine.
Well, we're moving into cooler months, so I think
Yeah,
we'll be
yeah.
having a few reds.
Hopefully.
Certainly on my host as well.
I actually, the truth was, I was actually looking just to bring you guys a block of EMU export.
Nice. The push joke.
It's probably sold out.
And I still don't mind EMU export. I don't mind it. Okay. I find it hard paying the prices I want to charge for it these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's doubled in price.
My God.
Actually, probably tripled.
I don't know. I mean, that's just me. I find it hard to pay that price, but
Supply and demand.
Yeah, well.
High demand
So
for
do you
bush
reckon that they're not producing as much? That's probably what it has to be, right?
No, it's just popular, so they put the price up.
Cheers,
Yeah.
everybody.
They all have their day.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I like that noise.
So Cab Sav.
Cab's a bit ballsier than.
But the South Australian Cab Savs are good, yeah. You can be
Well,
if you get a
I mean,
Cab Sav
they
from
do say South Australians are the best in Australia, and obviously poll fairly well in the world. But it's mainly the Shiraz wines out of South Australia. I actually think Margaret River's, I would say, one of the best regions in Australia, if not the best.
pretty
region.
diverse, I think, for its wines.
So it is my preference for wines in Australia for Cab Savs. I drink it from anywhere, mate.
Well,
And that doesn't say much for my palate, but I did grow up in the eastern suburbs. Who am I kidding?
Where about which
oh,
suburb?
Sydney.
I grew up.
Yeah.
I spent some time in Lockridge, where
Whoa.
I was, you're lucky to come out with your life every day.
Yep.
And a lot of my childhood was in Beachboro, which is just over
Oh
the
wow.
road.
Okay. Huh.
And well, I still hang out a lot in the Morley area. I live in Westminster these days, which is a whole nother Thugsville.
Man.
I can handle my own though, so I'm no dramas there. just don't go out past 7 o'clock at night. Make sure you're in a moving car. All right, so on content today we have Michael Duncan. Welcome back from your recent holiday back to your
Yeah,
homeland,
this
mate.
is my first podcast for a
Couple of weeks.
couple of weeks. Yeah. So it's good to be back. Just been over to the UK. So if I do doze off during the during the podcast after a glass, just nudge us and I'll wake up. And I've had a float as well. So
Oh,
really?
double whammy.
Double whammy, or we're doubly winning. One of the
Yeah.
two.
Missed you guys though.
We missed
Not
you
the other
too.
guys, just you guys here.
No, you didn't roll your
Why
eyes,
did he roll his eyes when he said that? That's just
I
rude.
didn't. This
And
is
on the
audio. You can't.
Other things of content we've got Matt Hanham, so I think we will go with Michael first.
Oh, I like how you looked at Matt.
I know, the
Said-
look away,
That was the
look
look
away.
away pass.
Okay. Let me
Ooh,
just
preparedness.
unravel the paper. Self-awareness is one of these words, or two words I should say, that we hear a lot in the content we consume. through be it Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, Carl Jung, Bruce Lee, whoever. Self-awareness is one of these sort of reoccurring kind of focus on taking control in your life, I suppose, or a way to do it. And I think for me, I don't struggle with self-awareness. I understand it, but I want to go a bit deeper on it and see what other people think, what it actually is, how you can define self-awareness. And I've got I want to go through 4 quotes from a couple of the guys that I mentioned in the intro. So quotes, who are we waving at? So quotes by Carl Jung, who we've talked about on the podcast before, a philosopher and psychiatrist from the late 1800s, I think.
Was it 1800s?
Early 1900s. Oh, see, he studied under Nietzsche, I think. Yeah, so early 1900s, and I think him and Freud were best buds at one stage. Bruce Lee, Tony Robbins, and Gary Vee. So these are 4 different quotes on self-awareness.
I'm surprised you didn't get anywhere near the Bible, man. There's plenty of it in there.
Does it actually mention self-awareness?
Is there an audio book of the Bible?
It would have to be.
Because you clearly smashed a lot of content on your travels, right? Like you spent a lot of time in a plane. I'm sure you had a good opportunity to listen to
a couple of
things.
Joe Rogan podcasts, a bit of Gary Vee, because even though I've got the book Crushing It, I got the audio one as well because I enjoy it.
I'm not sure consuming Gary Vee in a closed space like a plane.
I know, it's dangerous. Yeah.
Bounce off the walls after Joe Rogan and Gary Vee.
Well, Joe Rogan was the sleep podcast that I was mentioning the other day. You've got to listen to that.
We noticed that. I'm not brave enough to open that just yet.
Okay, so the 4 quotes on self-awareness. This is Carl Jung. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Which I think is one of the
fucking biggest wormhole you could ever.
That's one of the most poignant quotes on here. I think 100%. I really like that. Bruce Lee. After all knowledge simply means self-knowledge. Nice and simple, typical Bruce Lee style. Yeah. Sort of holistic, sort of everything in one.
That is one of his punch, mate.
Mark would be loving this. Tony Robbins, okay, this is a bit more convoluted, a bit longer. Self-awareness is one of the rarest of human commodities. I don't mean self-consciousness, where you're limiting and evaluating yourself. I mean being aware of your own patterns. So he's talking about being self-aware, like of what you're doing day to day. And Gary Vee, I mean, he's big on self-awareness. That's his constant bash for everybody. Self-awareness is being able to accept your weaknesses while focusing all of your attention on your strengths. I just like the coverage all 4 of these quotes get from very different people on self-awareness. I'd be interested to ask you guys what your, not definition, but how self-awareness kind of comes to life in your life, or if it does, if it doesn't, or if you've got a different word for it, or if there's a few things you do that kind of are under that banner. Because I think for me, and I listened to Alan Watts as well, Alan Watts, the British philosopher from the 50s, 60s. And he actually went the opposite. Self-awareness is about everything. It's not just you. Because self-awareness really, on the standard definitions, comes internally to you, to your ego, how you control that, how you handle that. To be self-aware,
you have to be very aware of everything. Yeah. So I can understand where that plays in.
Yeah. So he's saying there is really no self. You are born of the world, of everything.
You're a piece of a moving target.
And what he says is humans are a symptom of nature.
Yeah.
Humans tend to think of themselves as this separate thing.
But is that because we do separate ourselves instead of? So what I've just learned to spend some time with is the individualization of the human.
Yeah, which is a very human trait, which a lot of animals don't have.
No, animals don't have those. No, nature doesn't have that.
That's why we're so stuffed up, like as
sure.
organisms, and that is really all we are. But because there's something in our head that is self-reflective, can see the past, or can't see the past, but can think about the past, think about things that may happen in the future, anxiety, all that sort of stuff. So it's a really interesting, and self-awareness, I think, goes to a certain level where you're kind of dealing with that day-to-day ego and...
Well, you asked earlier, like I said, did you get to the Bible? And you asked, is it referenced in the Bible?
Actually, as self-awareness?
Well, not as a word self-awareness, but at the point where Adam and Eve, Book of Genesis, Adam and Eve gets the apple from the tree of wisdom, and then suddenly everything becomes aware to her. That in itself is self-awareness. At that point...
So talking about the human condition.
At that point, humanity separated itself from nature. Because before then, they were all-inclusive, living in the garden.
Yep. See, and I think this is where Alan Watts comes down. He's turning self-awareness back to being completely connected with nature.
Yeah, 100%.
Nature.
Well, and so the weeks I've spent with William Whitecloud, that's exactly what we've been working on, is how to reconnect and stay connected to the energy and the source, as opposed to the individualisation that we go through.
And I think it starts with that sort of maybe first level self-awareness where you're battling the ego, trying to understand how you're thinking, what you're doing, just being aware of it. Because I think too many people, and I'm included in this, sort of just go along and are influenced by outside forces and
what's the Gary piece as well, right? About accepting your weaknesses, like letting the ego go of and allowing to understand truth.
And it's very hard in this day and age where you're bombarded by the perfect image of this, that you should be this, you should be that. So people are always striving to be something that they will never actually be. So hence anxiety, depression, all that stuff comes into play when self-awareness isn't applied.
Yeah, you're right. But being bombarded is one thing. Receiving information is one thing. How you decipher it and how you use it's another.
That's a skill, though.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the sort of thing I want to talk about today. Like, what sort of things do you use to? Because you're being bombarded with information, and we all suffer from.
Does it serve you?
Yeah. That's a good question to ask.
As simple as it gets. Is what is happening at the moment serving you?
Yeah.
And if it's not, why not?
Yeah,
but no one's asking those questions. I want to.
They are. There's a massive movement going through at the moment.
There's a movement. I agree, but there's not the general. So I had a big rant on a phone call earlier today, and it was just on. We're just getting so busy that to achieve something in one business, communicating with another one, for example, so communicating with another person, you just need to. We're finding ourselves more and more needing to really simplify what we need done and still peppering the person. And something that's as simple as a one-line response or a one signature situation seems to be taking so long because we're so distracted generally by all this noise.
But that's what creates individualisation, is the distraction to allow that to happen.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying. So I don't think the general population's working on it. I think there's a movement that's working on it, which is, of course, where it all starts.
It's always ever going to be a movement, mate.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's exactly what that is. It's ego, but then also just epic distraction and a lot of technology that's creating that. I mean, that creates opportunities within the problem, but it's something that I've been really mindful of, particularly the last couple of weeks, because I'm watching some situations unfold and just quality people are struggling to execute simple tasks, and you have to ask yourself.
Don't talk about the board of any financial services company at the moment, are we?
Well, they wouldn't like what I had to say, but
you're right though.
Anyway,
but I think people are afraid to confront who they really are. I think.
I don't know whether they're afraid. Is it?
Not well. It's easier to use an outside.
I don't think people actually know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and it's always.
But maybe they don't want to. I don't know.
Well,
I'm the same.
You don't know what you don't know, right? Simple as that. Then the question becomes, what questions you ask to get to know.
One thing I've been looking at recently is reconciling that gap between sort of who you want to be and who you are.
But you're doing a lot of that physically as well, though, right?
Yeah, 100%. So me at the moment, my journey of kind of preparing for my first gridiron season, I'm looking at certain positions that I would like to play versus what people are kind of pigeonholing me, going, oh, you're this height, this weight, this strength, you should play this position. I'm like,
there's a Nike commercial going on here.
Are you kind of balancing that? So taking advice, but then being strong enough to then stay your ground and know what you want?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, like you said, of kind of going, oh yeah, cool, I recognize that that's something that I could be good at, but also
you're wrong.
But also I want to kind of back myself to show off the skill set that's required for maybe the positions that I'd prefer to play.
It's a classic case of vision driving action versus beliefs limiting action.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Or being influenced by outside forces to bring you to where they want you to be.
Yeah, because you're playing within their levels of comfort.
Yeah, like traditionally, the two positions I'd like to play, receiver and cornerback, are kind of tall, skinny, fast, good hands.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of average height, semi-fast, but have fairly good hands. So I'm kind of like, cool, what can I, rather than go, okay, I'll accept that, I'll move on to a different position. I'm like, cool, I can get faster, I can get better
Good on you.
quickness. Sure, I'm not going to get taller, but I can jump very high, so I can make up for that. So
Yeah.
I can tick 8 out of the 10 boxes, and for the WA state league, that's sufficient. So
Yeah.
And the rest of it's heart, mate. Is actually just putting it in there.
and if they assign me in a position that I was like, oh, maybe that's not what I wanted, to have the humility to go, yep, cool, I understand that I'm going to fill this role in your team. It's your team, and I'm a part of that, and then to still go all in.
Yeah.
And find ways to kind of take action to...
How's that playing out mentally for you, though? So physically, clearly, your body's changing.
Yeah.
How much work are you doing mentally to keep yourself focused?
More. Recently, like I've had the last 2 to 3 days done more work and productivity than I have in weeks. I'm not sure what clicked or what changed, but I've just sat down, smashed out some stuff I needed to do, and just taking that first couple of steps of action kind of snowballed into more and more.
So to just overlay on what Jacob's talking about in relation to self-awareness, which is the key to personal growth, and using that on the template that I've been working on over the last few months, looking what your current reality is. You're short, you're slow, you're not the typical type player in that type of position. You've understood what reality looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can accept what that looks like and be limiting your beliefs, and then therefore accepting what gets given to you, or you can be driven by your higher conscious towards your vision and believe in an outcome that is clearly possible to be attained regardless of whether somebody else believes in that or not.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that's a state of awareness.
Yep.
You know exactly what's playing out, where it's playing out, and you're still moving forward at your highest conscious level.
Yeah. So not letting anybody else set your limits, but giving yourself the limits.
Mate, okay, here's a question for you, Jacob. How many times do you have self-doubt in your mind in relation to what you're doing to the position?
Fairly often, because
So, daily?
most days I'll think about the kind of physical contact aspect of gridiron that's something I'm very unfamiliar with. I've always played tennis, soccer, triathlons, like individual sports where essentially non-contact.
Yeah.
So going into any position where people are going to be trying to smash me to the ground or me be required to actually go out and physically hunt people down and tackle them.
And the position you're going for, is that going to be people going after you to stop you?
Potentially, I'll either be in a position where I have to make big plays to kind of catch the ball and avoid people trying to...
Okay.
Like once you've got the ball, you're the prime
Target,
target.
yeah.
Or be one of the guys that's fast enough to chase down the people with the ball. So regardless, I'll be in a position to be right there where the action is.
But I guarantee this if you bother to journal it and you want to rate it on a scale system,
Yep.
the closer you get to selection, the more the doubt will kick in.
Yeah.
Okay? Because this is where they talk about the dark side and the light. It happens to be May the 4th, so May the Force. So Star Wars, very clinical Star Wars philosophy, right? The dark side and the Force. The Force is strong in everybody, but the dark
It's always
side
the dark
does
side.
win most of the time. And it's a limiting belief thing that drives that. And the closer you get to your vision and your actualization is where you will feel it the most.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is where Maslow and Yogananda and those people that talk about self-realization, self-actualization on a hierarchical pyramid. That pinnacle is when you reach that pinnacle of self-belief, self-awareness, that state where you've combated the dark side and won.
Yeah.
But it will get stronger.
And it comes and goes in waves as well. Like I'll go through periods where I'll be training really hard, I'll be getting faster, I'll get a few touchdowns in like flag, like our non-contact American football, and the ego will kind of grow a little bit and go, I can do this, I'm pretty good here. But then I'll go to a state game and watch the top level receivers and go, actually done pretty shit.
Hear the crunch.
I've got some work to do, yeah. And it kind of, that gets beaten down a little bit, but then you kind of go, nope, actually they've been playing for 3 or 4 years.
That's the humility.
This is my first season. and then I'll start to pick up again and go, cool, straight back into the training.
Yeah.
You're not down for long if you kind of go, yep, cool, first season. And that's where the self-awareness comes in, kind of, this is my skill set, this is who I am. As long as I put my 100% in there and contribute to the team, that's the best I can do.
That's a good point. I think putting the 100% in gives you that validity to, because you know you've put the work in.
Yeah,
so
100%.
the confidence builds with that.
But the state of receiving then, as opposed to feeling, the state of receiving comes from you allowing yourself to be humble enough to receive.
Yep.
And that's the play with the ego, isn't it?
100%,
back and forth.
Yeah, it's the ego is where the arrogance kicks in. It's where the greed kicks in. It's where the anger kicks in. It's where the frustration kicks in. Okay, that's all. That's where your ego is playing, because it's happening to you, not for you. The journey's through you. Nothing's happening to you. And we talk about Ryan Holiday. We talk about the obstacle being the way. Whatever the issue is, whatever the doubt is, that's the path you take.
Yeah.
It's the path you take that allows you to go on that journey, and that path externally is similarly mirrored internally through your internal structures around your self-belief patterns, which then thwart your awareness growth. Because if you stop, you don't grow.
And that's what I often tell people as a coach, like if they're ever in doubt about what option to take in a workout or in life, kind of take the path of most resistance.
Most resistance, yeah.
Kind of lean into the challenge and kind of go, cool, that's something I'm not very good at, so it's something I'm going to kind of lean into and improve. Like, sure, Gary always says, kind of be aware of your weaknesses, but go all in on your strengths.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily believe, this thing, the weakness, right? If you're a right-hander, your left hand is your weakness, yeah?
Yeah.
But if you haven't done something, then that's not necessarily a weakness. That's just fear at play.
Yeah.
An unknowingness. So I think, be clear with what I believe Gary's talking about, is if you know your weakness, i.e. you know you are predominantly a right-hander and you're going to throw with your left, be aware of your left hand. Don't look to throw on your left if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
But if you haven't tried something, I don't necessarily believe that's a weakness.
Yeah.
It's contradictory as well, because often like your weakness can be a potential strength or something. Like it's exploiting that. I mean, you posted something recently about the first player to get drafted in the NFL that has one hand.
Yes.
I forget the guy's name. It's super interesting, but like obviously he learnt to work with that weakness and to turn that obviously into a strength in some way, shape, or form, into how he, whether that's just a mental shift, but like
because he clearly became aware of what his deficiency was compared to what would be the norm, and he accepted that and then moved away from its limiting scenario towards where he could play.
Didn't let it become an excuse.
No.
Another sporting situation right now is, just consider a rookie in most or any sport. They're expected to just do a little bit. They might be super talented, but just learn for a little bit. Just hang along, and then there's always one or two, because everyone's expectation is not to pull you down per se, but everyone expects the mean or the average of you, typically, and whatever, they put you in a category, like you say, based on your, in this gridiron situation, based on your size, shape, speed. Okay, you should go here, and here's the average. And that's just roughly where we expect you to be. But look at, for example, a couple of rookies. I'll go flick to the NBA. Donovan Mitchell right now. There's a couple of other amazing, and there's always a couple every year in any sport who stand right out, who, even if they're super talented or not, they step up and mentally show something different because of an awareness of who they are, their capability, their skill set, and they're not going to be held back by the perceived weakness of it being, say, their first year in the league.
Yeah, well, self-awareness gives you the opportunity to accept. And when you accept, then you can excel.
Who was the guy for the LA Lakers, the teacher who got his first game a couple of weeks back? I think it was LA Lakers. He's like 32 years old.
Years of age.
Yeah.
He played out here, I believe.
And he killed it on the day.
He played out here in the NBL.
Oh, wow.
With
Okay.
Wildcats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I forgot his name off the top of my head. So, he played out here, and, they threw him a lifeline.
And he'd obviously kept that belief.
Yeah,
Banging around in his head.
He was, the Lakers said, "Do you want to have a crack?"
And he scored I can't remember the stats, but 14 points and got rebounds and assists. And,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, right. Not just a minute.
He had a good game.
So awareness isn't enough, okay, to create massive, lasting change. You have to take action.
Of course, yeah.
Which is something.
But the steps, aren't they? They're sort of.
Yeah, well, I think.
How would you, if you could put them down in some steps for, as a practical guide to self-awareness, what would you start with? For somebody that maybe doesn't
To attain self-awareness, you have to be able to reflect and reflect. I'm loath to using the word critically, but honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that written down, like being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely honest. Like, because if there's even a hint of...
the single grain of sand contaminates the most purest glass of water.
Yeah.
So if you're aiming for self-awareness, then be fucking aware.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to tell anybody else.
No, of course, yeah.
But
yourself.
You've got to tell yourself.
Yeah.
But that objectivity is so difficult, isn't it? Right? Because even you see it in so many people. They're sort of still pretending to themselves. The rest of the world can see it, and they're still sort of trying
but
to.
It's irrelevant what the rest of the world sees.
No, I know, but they can
yeah.
see
That's where
closer
the
to the
frustration lies.
closer to the truth than what the person's willing to sort of, I guess, see. And there's no finite. Like, you don't just become, I'm self-aware.
Yeah, but can we put
A little switch.
Can we put a caveat on this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a game that if you start to play it, is fraught with danger. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an easy road.
It's not even that's an easy road. Is that you'll start to see stuff in yourself, in your environment, and others around you, and you're
the
almost,
evil, the dark. You'll see this stuff come out.
You're almost compelled to take action. Well, sorry, not almost. You are fucking compelled to take action.
Yeah.
Because then you end up at that lovely quote we debated a couple of episodes ago: "The half-wise will be thrashed against rocks by reason of their own folly." If you choose to lift the veil of ignorance, if you choose to become aware, you have to take action.
Yeah.
All right, because the opposite does not exist. As soon as you open your eyes, it's game on.
I think there's probably a space where you could
Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Commercialize bringing yourself back. You know, I could.
Don't you dare go in the grave.
Oh, you know where I'm going. I could just see like swaggicfrancis.com. You know, come to Swaggy C's event, and he'll hold up that little Men in Black, like, and we can send you back to ignorance.
Why is everyone
it's
talking
just
about
10 grand.
Like, anyone I've spoken to in the last, I think I've had 3 or 4 people tell me, "Well, why are you not on stage talking about this stuff?"
I think this is a con game. This is what I'm sharing for you. I think you had a great business idea.
I mean, like I said, I think the problem I have is I know the troubles, and I see the problems that happen when people choose to take steps towards awareness or fucking enlightenment, whatever the hell that is. You know, it is just flawed. It is flawed. So treat it with absolute respect. If you're going to entertain the audience, I would encourage everyone to be fucking as ignorant as you want to be. Because as soon as you start to open the doors and turn the lights on, it's game on.
You see what the real story is.
It's game on.
And we've talked about that evil, the evil in all of us.
You'll see it.
Yeah.
We've all seen it. I mean, I think that's what this podcast is about. Well, different degrees, but the reason why we're even doing this is because we've opened doors that we want to continue to explore.
Chambers,
doors,
Worlds,
like rabbit holes.
Rabbit hole has probably been the most used,
Alice in Wonderland.
most used reference this whole podcast.
I mean, Bruce Lee. I mean, the things we go down. You know, clearly,
but
we're all just looking to understand.
Knowing
Right?
the journey Jacob is on, and even knowing the journey I was just on, even last week, into going back to taking a head coaching on for a game. You know, even though I've done it plenty of times before, your self-doubt just creeps in. Of
course, yeah.
As closer you get to the...
Because your ego doesn't want to be hurt, yeah? Is one of the factors there, I reckon.
Your ego doesn't want you to fucking succeed.
Yeah.
Doesn't want you
It's
to
working
win.
against you the whole time.
It wants you to be satisfied with bullshit.
So then, practically, I guess it's all one thing. It's about time spent in zones, right? Because I think that self-doubt, coming back to Jacob's example, that's always going to pop up in one way, shape, or form. It's how quickly or how long, I guess, you sit in that space, which can start to affect your actions.
Yeah.
Right?
It can be a comfortable space to sit in as well, doesn't it?
It can
like,
be super comfortable.
Everybody feels sorry for
Because
me.
it's
Like,
not
it's, or I feel sorry for myself. You
Yeah.
know? It's like an easy, comfortable sort of thing.
And you
Whereas-
can use it to sit back into that kind of defense and go, yeah, I guess I'm not made for that. Or you can lean into it and go,
Fuck that. Let's
nah,
ride.
cool. Like there's space between where I'm at and where that guy is or where I want to be. And kind of that'll push you harder. Like going and watching the state games, seeing the kind of best receivers in
That
Perth
desire is what
made me
burns
go,
you.
oh, that's who I want to emulate.
Yeah, that's desire. It's not even... See, people get it mixed up. I reckon that is absolute gold. All right? And that's what you need to keep feeding yourself.
Yeah.
Inspiration, motivation, that type of gold. I don't necessarily believe it happens any other way. It can't happen any other way.
So you need that desire to...
Yeah.
Like I was humbled and I became more self-aware of where I was at, but then I had more hunger for where I want to be.
Yeah, you need the work you need to do to maintain.
And that was good. You always need those new reference points to go, cool, this is where I'm at,
cool.
this is where I want to be. And that self-awareness is just knowing that gap.
There you go. The definition has been...
Knowing the gap.
So you're drawing it out.
Say that again. Well, write that down.
Cool.
Nice.
Do we know them?
Did we answer
I think so.
I really
Carl
like that
Jung.
first. Can we start with that first definition again? Can we
I was
hear
going
that?
to just say that.
Jung-
The Carl
Jung's a
Jung quote,
nutcase, mate.
everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves.
And so here's one.
I love
you, right?
that.
Let's just drop this bomb. Okay. Whoever's married here, whoever's in relationships that are listening, the shit that attracted you to your partner is the shit that's going to challenge you right now.
Why right now?
It will always challenge you. It's the path that you're attracted to will turn and face you at some stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes complete sense.
It happens every time.
I think it was a mini skirt.
I'm hoping it was more than a miniskirt.
Wait,
So
it was a bit
just-
tight,
just-
so you ran into the...
so sit with that
I've
because
tried wearing
I
them.
know in the relationships I've been in, that's exactly what's happened. Like I constantly say, people are enamoured by what it looks like to be in a relationship with, but the fucking reality is it's a nutcase. It is a nutcase, and I would wish it upon my worst enemy. All right, move on.
Speaking to three married
Let's
guys
move on.
who see things somewhat differently. But, you know, you could probably create your own podcast around this topic. Conrad's Book of Love.
Love and desire.
Actually, that'd be a great sequel event to your other event after the Men in Black. But while we're there, I guess
Oh,
it's
you
my-
prepared as well.
I've prepared too. I guess
My
it's time
God.
for my topic.
I like how you guys are actually using paper. Are we not in the fucking digital age, gentlemen?
No, I'm too busy using my phone for other things. It's okay. I just
Instagram.
scribbled something on a piece of paper as we walked in.
Great collaboration tools, Evernote. You can type on your computer and it actually pops up on your phone.
Something nice.
Oh,
Bill.
yeah.
You
I'm a
jour-
big
you
fan
write
of just
down,
physically
don't
writing
you?
stuff.
Yeah, you
I
journal, don't you,
use
by
Evernote.
writing? Or you don't, do you?
I use digital for like 98% of things, apart from a little bit of journaling and a little bit of just every now
There's
and
a
then
lot of
writing a short
sponsorship
list.
if we start plugging some great new apps and stuff.
We could do that too. I definitely
Evernote,
use
I've been
Evernote.
using it for years.
I love Evernote as well. It's my someone put it. I can't remember who. It's
Hashtag
my-
love Evernote.
It's my external brain. I use it as my
Sponsor
external
opportunity.
brain. But anyway, Swaggy, my topic stems from actually something you posted this week,
Ooh.
which
dear.
led me to
Don't pump up his ego. Don't tell him it was him. Come on.
it led me to block you, and then no, what it did is it allowed me to watch some Tim Ferriss, which I haven't consumed a
Wow.
great deal of content.
Good is that?
His
dude?
stuff's getting better,
I'd
eh?
say, oh,
Again.
look, he's always been fantastic. I just think you go through phases, right? And then you
I'd
watch chunks of
almost
things.
switch sides for him.
That's a
Is
big...
that because he's doing a lot of video these days, so you get to look at him, or?
He's too short for you,
I just
Conrad.
love how driven he is.
Yeah, he is. He's amazing. But so he was being interviewed on Impact Theory, and that was I think.
Does anyone know how to say Tom's name? I can't say Tom's surname.
Tom? No, I don't want to say Tom.
Shout out Tom. He's
Tom.
actually been
Billy.
interacting with me on Twitter, or him or his staff.
Cool. That's fantastic. That's a good piece of information. No, actually, that's quite good.
Impact
we should
Theory.
see if he
Listen
wants to
to it, watch
see
it.
if he wants
It's
to come on the show.
fantastic.
So one question that was raised in that interview, or obviously Tim asks a lot of questions of himself in particular, but I thought this was a pretty cool one to raise and discuss. And the story goes that Tim was in his first job. He was in.
I've been telling this story all week.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to tell it? He was in sales, and he basically was doing a terrible job.
Do you remember what he was selling? That's the part I can't
No,
remember.
I do. It was some form of information, like SaaS
Okay.
software product. I
He's
believe.
talked about this story in a few of his podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. And so he was doing a terrible job, and he asked himself the question: what if I did the opposite of what I'm doing right now for 48 hours? So
But didn't he compare himself to the people that were excellent, working 9 to 5 and getting the results?
yeah, compared to
Yeah,
them. So he was doing a terrible job. They were doing phenomenally. He was, clearly behind the 8 ball in terms of the skill set, etc. But like, what if he was to do the opposite? So the whole point around 48 hours is to basically you shouldn't be able to do that much damage if you do the opposite for 48 hours. Certainly in some places you can, but really this is an experiment to try something different and to basically give yourself a chance to succeed another way or consider a different approach, but you damage control in play is 48 hours. So he realised he was doing a terrible job selling 9 to 5, as you say. So he decided, okay, well, I'm going to do all my calls from 5 to 8 p.m. and 6 to 8 a.m. rather than calling everyone during the day. What that did for him was he was able to get hold, often the leaders, the business owners, the people he was looking for in terms of getting through. The gatekeepers were only working 9 to 5. The other crew were working a bit longer. So he was able to get more calls, close more appointments, basically close a lot more business just off the back of changing that strategy, which in effect saw him making calls for less time in the day. But it was just thinking differently. And it challenged me to go back to Tools of Titans and pick up that 455,000 page book and have a look at the 17 questions that Tim asks himself again. But also I asked myself the question as I walked into this podcast, what if I did the opposite for 48 hours? And I mean, there's a series you could ask yourself that question across anything that you're doing in work. But I thought, mate, next week I'm going to come into the office I often have meetings, I'm in and out, but I'm going to leave my computer and any ability to use a computer at home, which is not, often I'm not on it that much during the day, but I want to see how my perspective might shift if I'm there and just ready to answer questions, communicate a little bit on my mobile phone, but just do things a bit differently. So that's just one thing I thought might be an interesting test for a couple of days to just see how that changes me achieving the set goals I wanted to achieve that day, or what that looks like, because I think that's where some of my busyness is driven from. I know what comes through the phone, but I think some of my busyness is created mentally by me thinking I have to achieve certain tasks during the day, and the truth is they're not happening in the day anyway. They're happening after hours, or they're being passed on, and I think I'm not as present because of it. So that's just one thing I'm going to try, which is probably there's bigger things I could do, but it's just something that I could try. So if I was to ask you...
What are you looking for? I mean, what is the goal you're trying to find?
In that, performance. Just improvement of performance. Can that give me some more clarity? And will that allow me to... I think I had a lot of good conversations with Justin Bourne, who's not with us today, but over the last couple of weeks we had this conversation. I think he's reading a book called Deep Work, and it stems back to what I said in our previous segment where I was talking about how busy we are all the time, and I want to get to a point where I'm much more aware of the noise and chatter and how I can eliminate that noise and chatter, and when in my week do I actually have time for deep work and picking off the right pieces of deep work for me to do and making sure I'm passing other stuff onto my team. Whereas I sort of come in every day thinking I'll talk to people, I'll meet with people, I'll do this and do that, and then I sort of always give myself a couple of sort of deeper work tasks to do, and I don't think it's realistic that I do that during a standard sort of working day in one of the days that I'm seeing people. I do still break my week up a little bit, but certainly my Mondays and Fridays are designed to have a lot less meeting time, mainly to be office bound, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for getting some more awareness. So then when I find the blocks of time I really do have to do deep work, like adjusting pricing strategies or, things that you really do need to whiteboard, sit down and think about. I want to create more freedom of thought rather than just have noise. So I don't know how finite that is a want, but that's sort of what I'm looking to achieve.
And that's a good connection, I guess, between these two topics, is knowing what to put all your energy into requires a fair bit of self-awareness to know what's the biggest impact you can have. We're all business owners here. A lot of the people within our circle are kind of business owners and entrepreneurs, or who will be in the near future, like Marco. And knowing, especially once you've got a team of a handful of people who have different skill sets, knowing when I come into work, there's so many different things you can do as the kind of at the top of the business, knowing, cool, there's so many different areas I can add value, but taking a step back to go kind of what is my greatest skill set? What's the greatest value I can add to this business? And kind of going all in on that strength. And for me, recently I've always kind of just been filling gaps and kind of going, cool, here's what our coaches do, here's what our admin staff do, here's what's left, I'll do that. But it's kind of, I'm now trying to flip that around and go, what are the things that I'm truly great at, and how can I go all in on them and add as much value as I can, and then kind of find what's left after that, and then start plugging those gaps. Don't know how that feeds into the kind of 48-hour concept you're discussing.
You need to not touch any dumbbells for 48 hours,
Yeah.
and then you'll be sweat. No,
So
I agree. I think it's exactly that's exactly what I'm saying. So that's exactly the thought process I'm having, because it's not like, I think it's easy for us to just catch all as the business owner, as the last line of defense, and I spend a lot of time catching all, and then there's always a piece of work that ends up being 3, 4, 5 weeks later in completion than when I would have really liked it to be done, because you're too busy in the catch-all, too busy in the noise, and you haven't been able to...
Or is it a task you maybe don't want to face?
Or
I don't enjoy doing, or is there...
That happens too, but I don't think that's what this is. These are often tasks that I want to address. They just are a genuinely 2 or 3 hour clear-minded piece of work, which is really hard to find that space to do. Yeah.
So you're saying you're going to give yourself that space,
well,
or try and find that space through trying to have a different work day, I suppose.
Yeah, trying to test my work day to have a look at if I am I just making this up.
I mean, where do you think your strengths lie in the business? I mean, obviously you're the owner of the business and run the business, but what do you think you could improve on a day-to-day basis that's going to push the business where you want it to go? What do you think, like a couple of things that you aren't doing now that you think you should be doing?
No, it's the things I should be letting go of.
Okay.
So it's the other way around. So which is why I want to really see how much, like if I'm playing around with a few of the finance bits or what am I catching? And so without a computer, I won't be able to catch it. So I'll bank it up and then I'll see what it really looks like.
So these little things that you want to drop off, somebody else will be dealing with?
Someone else will need to catch it. I just need to work out how much and what it is.
Okay.
So that will allow.
So you just
me
want to kind of test it a little bit. You sort of want to see.
I want to see what it would take, or what's needed to allow me to literally roll into the office every day of the week, just having my meetings, having whatever's there, without me having to do any small bits of work. For the most part, there's always going to be stuff that you catch, and then so I can spend most of my time communicating with people and doing things and making decisions. And the balance of my time I kind of have for deep work pieces, not chasing tail, helping and fixing everything. And I feel like I need to create a situation where I can't capture those tasks very well, or they have to be done by the phone, which I'm okay.
Yeah, it is funny though, because these deep tasks are the ones that the smaller catch all sort of tasks are easy. You get onto them, you can do them 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah. It's hard starting the bigger ones, but you find when you do start them, it feels good. And momentum builds. It's amazing, and that's is delegating your tasks properly, self-awareness. It is a great connection between the last topic. I'm very scared that Conrad's been so quiet for so long.
I've got a question for Conrad.
What's he doing in the corner?
If you had to do the opposite of something, I'd be drunk. If you had to do the opposite for 48 hours of something that you're finding as a major problem or a big problem for you right now, something you want to address. What would the opposite be, and how are you willing to test that?
Good question.
I've done some stuff like this. I mean, if you're asking me right now what I need to be doing,
or not doing.
Yeah, good question. Well, more importantly, I mean, we're moving our business at the moment, and I've got a few roadblocks that I'm dealing with internally. So,
moving in what way?
So we're moving away from our current structure into a more independent structure, and that takes obviously the systems changes, there's the legislative changes, there's all these other things that I've got to go through, and so I've got a lot of that stuff on my table at the moment. But then I've also got this opportunity to have this absolute stoush in a public forum with one of the big organisations here, which I'd love to take that battle on, and I'm having to keep repegging myself into a space of not fighting that fight because I've got this one to drive. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating because I'd love to have that opinion out there in the public space at the moment, to allow others to feel the same level of confidence about what independence looks like in my game, and in financial services, that it's not morphed with fear.
So do you think this is the stoush that is potentially going to happen between, obviously you're going to be talking about what your views on finance, the industry is, against some of the big players?
Yep.
Is there fear there?
No, there's no fear at all. I mean, someone's challenged me on the basis that, is that your ego speaking? And to a point it is. But, our vision is to make financial services accessible and affordable for all Australians. And I don't believe the large organisations have done that.
Yeah. So I think you need to do that then.
Yeah.
I think you need to
I need
face
to do that,
the...
but I need to get this business in a position where it's away from that to do that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to do that, but I should be focusing here. And I think that's what's battling me at the moment. Because you only have so many hours in the day, right?
Yeah.
So if I need to progress this real quick, which is what I'm trying to do, then I've got to take my time from somewhere and focus it somewhere. So that's what we're all talking about right now. Where the deep work is, or where you're going to get best bang
Most
for your buck.
impact, yeah.
Okay, so when I'm standing on my silo over here, I then can come back over here. The problem I have at the moment is that when you talk about recency, relevancy and frequency in the news space, this shit's bubbling right now.
But in terms of meeting your mission, I mean, you don't necessarily have to do that. All those people don't need to be on your books. So maybe could I ask the question of, would getting out there and being a voice, would that actually impact more people?
Again, I believe you've got to look at self-preservation before you look at it of being a saviour of everything else. And so to take care of me, putting my mask on myself, I've got to take care of my team. And I've got to drive that ship. And so for me, what I need to focus on in 48 hours or the next month is driving that ship and providing
With this change that's in place.
Providing that leadership direction. Because change in any format is pretty stressful, right? I mean, now, you guys haven't been in my space, but I've changed, organisations, licensees a few times, and it is fraught with danger in the sense that there's so many little trips and traps that you can fall into. I want my guys to have the confidence to keep doing what they're doing, so therefore I've got to give them the confidence by driving the ship as quickly and as safely as I can. So I can't fight that fight right now because this is what the fire is that I need to be firing. And it's giving me some time and space to then reconsider how I pitch that. Because, right now I'd love to just come out, gloves off and have a crack. I can take you back to the week that I was in LA where, you guys know me to be a person that has an opinion on fucking everything. And for 5 days, I didn't say a thing.
That's what was worrying me before when you were so quiet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to speak. Some people think that I have to speak. I don't have to speak. So when we talk about doing the opposite or doing something different, I've done this and I've purposely done it to understand how, firstly, I react in a situation and am I capable to survive, and then secondly, how others react or respond around me. So I do it regularly. So hearing Tim Ferriss say it, and it's for the first time I've consumed a lot of Ferriss, and I haven't heard this story.
It
was interesting. I completely get why he would do it and why you would limit it to 48 hours, because if it can't damage you, playing that space of working the inverse hours with zero result, is going to cost you. So therefore, let's limit it until I can validate it. It's no different to a science experiment.
It's creativity, isn't it? You've got to have creativity in
Well, I think that's exactly right. It's working in your best space, and I think we are all creative. We are all creators. And so therefore, do we follow the pattern behaviour of who are excelling at a 9 to 5? Or we say, well, fuck it.
Let's try something.
Let's try something different.
Disrupt.
And the numbers he got was something, astronomical. He got his monthly budget in the space of 2 days.
Oh, he went from underperforming to out of control, like beating the seasoned veterans. Yeah, in a short period of time.
It was ridiculous. So I mean, that in itself shows you that if you're following anybody, ask of why you're following them.
And if it's valid, that's fine. Yeah. And if there is validation there, that's good.
But indulge yourself with an element of reflection as to what does the opposite look like.
So I'll just throw it out to you guys because, do you have a situation at the moment where we could run a little experiment on, or Is there something that comes to mind that you could do the opposite for 48 hours and just
I could sleep.
test that?
I could sleep. I mean, that's an interesting one.
I'm asking these
There you
guys.
go. Do that. 8 hours.
8 hours sleep, what, for two nights?
No,
Go
it'll
on.
have to be a bit
I
longer
want
than
to,
that.
let's see your phone.
I don't even know if I could sleep for 8 hours.
Let's see if we can get you over 16 hours worth of sleep by the end of the weekend.
You reckon?
There's some great stats in that podcast, man. You got to listen to it. You got to
Yeah.
listen to it. Did you listen to that one?
There's the Joe Rogan one with the
Yeah,
sleep
the
expert.
sleep.
Yeah.
I'm capable of getting 8 hours sleep.
I think these guys are deflecting. I don't think
Ronald
they want to
Reagan,
tell-
Margaret Thatcher, they had big badges that said, I only sleep 4 hours a night. Alzheimer's, both of them.
Yeah. Well, I have an answer to your question, Matt.
early onset.
Yeah,
Hey, I put the flag up. I reckon I have got fucking early onset.
but they pretty much,
I do.
the stat was like one in 20,000 people have this special gene that allows them to work off 5 hours a night. But people that still think they can work off 5 hours,
Donald Trump.
the stuff that's actually happening
Donald
internally,
Trump has always.
you got to listen to the
historically talked
stats,
about
man.
I reckon I've got that gene.
That's what a lot of people think. That's what Margaret Thatcher thought.
Yeah. Well, I have an answer, but I'll get to that shortly. The point I was going to add is everyone has a ratio of sort of thinking to doing that they kind of tend to do, and everyone tends to default towards doing. If you've got 40 hours a
You think
week,
everyone defaults to doing?
most people, not typically in our circles, people think a lot more and they're a lot more critical about, or they take that time, but most people maybe 80-20
Oh, I guess I'm
doing.
challenging what they're doing.
Yeah, doing to thinking. One way you could flip it even for 48 hours, and we've experienced it on retreats for 2 to 5 days, where if you step out of that kind of do kind of week and you just take time to reflect
great
and
time.
think on the business, that can actually be huge. And even if it's monthly or quarterly or whatever it ends up being, if you, especially as a leader or the top of the business, or if you're in a executive sort of role, if you can go, cool, I'm going to take 2 days out rather than just feeling like I have to contribute and be productive by doing, to just flip that, leave your computer at home and just think, write.
Yeah.
Think,
And what's the
cool,
worst
where are we
case
going to be
scenario?
in 3, 5, 10 years? What does that look like? Do a bit of an audit of all the things you're doing and make sure they're the right things, and then flip it again, go straight back into doing and kind of execute.
It's true, and that's been instrumental for me and all of us, I think, in the room when we've done that type of thing. I mean, we talk about it traveling, we talk about it, in that retreat type space. But you're right, you're actively doing just the complete opposite, right?
It's easy to be busy, isn't it? Like
It's
to,
so easy,
Or
and it's
to
so
look
easy
like
to come
you're
back
busy.
48 hours later and nothing's really changed, even though you would have been so busy if you were there.
yeah.
Yeah. So we're in my space.
That used to be a great platform.
Nice pickup. I like that. That's good.
You tend to be either training or recovering, and there are many ways to recover. Obviously, sleep, nutrition, just time off training, and mobility is another one, like lighter kind of active work. A lot of my training, the stuff I promote, the stuff I post, is very intense. It's very destructive of my body, with the aim to come back stronger. If I took 48 hours off to, rather than lift weights and jump and sprint and move, I just did stretches and kind of mobility work for 48 hours, it would make a massive impact to the quality of I'd actually move faster and jump higher and move better and recover quicker. So that's in the physical space. People always want to finish a workout being like, I'm smashed, I'm sweating, I've worked hard. But if every now and then, even if it's once a week, you just take a day or a couple of days to recover properly, do some lighter intensity mobility work, it'll actually
No,
make
what we're
a
saying, you're
massive...
going to take 48 hours.
Yeah.
I like that idea in the workplace, like putting that sort of practice of, you do your hard work, but then you have 2 days of just yoga for business, like literally just stretching.
Train your
the body
mind
out.
instead of your body.
Which we do, as I said, we do on a micro basis, a lot of us, or on a macro basis, some of us as well. But I think that'd be a really nice monthly kind of habit to get into.
Yeah, just a couple of days where you just go, cool.
Or even 1 day a week, an afternoon a week or something, where you've just got that space, and I do that with sort of time management of meetings only Tuesdays, Thursdays, Finance Friday, just giving these little bits of space where that is what you concentrate on, and it's so powerful. And to have a whole day or 2 days once a month where your mind is you've just got a whiteboard, some paper, some
I know
crayons,
some businesses
whatever.
have done it well, like Google has 20% time, or they certainly used to,
Bean bags.
where Monday to Friday, you work on Google products, and then on the 5th day, you can work on anything
Whatever
you
you
like.
want. Just opens it, because different things will open up in your mind.
And quite often they
Yeah.
became new products. I think Gmail, like a few of these things came out of their 20% time.
We talked about ideas that were born from dreams. I mean, that's where the shit happens, is not in your normal working. I'm hard at work thinking about stuff. It's like giving yourself space. Perspective changes, ideas pop in, and then you've got the iPhone, you know, all of a sudden.
I think I do it too much.
Dream.
Yeah.
You dreaming
I'm
right
dreaming
now?
right now.
I think you're asleep in the corner, actually. So what?
No, I'm
Conrad,
not
would you-
asleep. I'm not asleep. It's a practice I do. I mean, I don't do it for 48 hours, but I'm always
There you
playing
go,
in
that's
the-
what you
in
need
the
to do
opposite
then.
space. I'd love to see what happens.
Silence. Do your Marco silence 2 days. That's your challenge.
Well, fuck, no one speak to me
No, you not speak to anybody.
for 2 days.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Dude, I'm going to coach a
You
basketball
can
team.
be silent coach.
Mine.
Silent
I'm
coach.
going to double headed this weekend.
That would be hard, I must
I
admit.
think you can do that. They know. They know what you're thinking.
Shut up.
Just look at them.
Would you like to wrap the show up, Conrad?
I think we're done. Shout out to Justin Bourne, Travis Hato, and Marco.
Or Santiago.
Wherever the hell he is.
Whatever his name is.
Does he get back when?
Sunday, he
I've
said.
got words with that bloke.
He's yeah.
I know.
Well, that's for another.
Actually, we shouldn't mention him on this podcast. He's
We
like,
shouldn't. He's an idiot. Anyway.
He's flying back on.
Oh, so I'll see him Sunday, I think.
You'll see him Sunday.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody. Great topics. Once again, thanks again, Jacob, for,
thank
for
you.
standing in.
Appreciate it, guys.
On that note, champagne. See you later.
Goodbye.
bye.